All right, let's dive in. Today, we're going on a journey to the very heart of human belief. We're talking about the ideas that have shaped civilizations, built cultures, and still guide the daily lives of billions of people. We're talking about religion, and we're going right back to where it all started. Now, just let that sink in for a second. That's the claim we're exploring today. Not some of the world's major religions, not even most of them, but all of them. It's a massive statement, suggesting that faiths that seem so different, like Christianity, Hinduism, and Buddhism, all sprouted from the same continent. So, yeah, it's a bold claim, for sure. But is it just a nice turn of phrase, or is it actually factually true? Well, in this explainer, that's exactly what we're going to find out. We're going to trace the roots and see if the evidence really does point to Asia as humanity's spiritual wellspring.
Okay, but before we can even start to test that claim, we all need to be on the same page. I mean, what does it actually mean for a religion to be considered major? You know, from a scholarly point of view.
See, this isn't about personal opinion or what feels important. Academics have a pretty specific definition. A major world religion isn't just a set of beliefs. It's a force that has had a massive, undeniable impact on a global scale, and for a really long time. To break it down even further, you can think of it like a checklist. We're looking for a huge number of followers. We're talking hundreds of millions, if not billions. We're looking for a deep and lasting influence on history, art, and politics. It needs to have spread far beyond its original home. And finally, it has to have a pretty well-defined system of beliefs. This is our framework, our ruler for this whole investigation.
All right, with our framework in place, it's time to start our tour. Let's travel to the spiritual heartlands of our world and see where these foundational faiths actually got their start.
Our first stop, the Indian Subcontinent. People often call this place a spiritual laboratory, and for good reason. This is where Hinduism, one of the world's oldest living traditions, first emerged. But it didn't stop there. From this same region, we got Buddhism, which would travel across the entire continent, as well as the unique paths of Jainism and Sikhism.
And this is what's so incredible. The sheer spiritual creativity here is off the charts. It is so rare for one single geographic region to give birth to four distinct, major faiths all on its own. It's a phenomenon you just don't see anywhere else on this scale.
Okay, now let's head west on our tour, to another part of Asia. West Asia, what many of us know as the Middle East. This region is the undisputed cradle of monotheism, the belief in one God. Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, the three great Abrahamic faiths, every single one of them traces its origin story right here.
And just think about their shared DNA. They pull from common prophets, shared histories, and core ideas, but each one evolved into a completely unique global religion with billions of followers between them. And yep, once again, all originating in Asia.
And just to round out our tour, let's head over to East Asia. Here we find Confucianism and Taoism. Now, some people debate whether they're religions or philosophies, but their profound influence on culture, ethics, and spirituality is absolutely undeniable. And, no surprise here, they also originated in Asia.
So, we've covered the what and the where. The evidence is definitely stacking up. But this brings us to the biggest and maybe the most important question of all. Why? Why did Asia become this unparalleled incubator for the world's great faiths?
Well, it seems it wasn't just one single thing, but more like a perfect recipe with a bunch of key ingredients. First, you had these ancient civilizations that provided the stability needed for deep philosophical thinking to even happen. Then, you had trade routes like the Silk Road acting like superhighways, not just for goods, but for these big, transformative ideas. Add in a really diverse geography that inspired different ways of seeing the world. And finally, you mix in periods of major social and political chaos, which often makes people search for new spiritual answers.
But, a good investigation has to look at the other side, too. Are there any exceptions to this rule? I mean, what about all the important spiritual traditions from other parts of the world, like Africa or the Americas?
And this is where that definition we talked about earlier becomes so important. While indigenous traditions from every single continent are incredibly rich and vital to their cultures, they've historically been more localized. They just haven't achieved that same kind of global scale and massive number of followers that puts a religion like Islam or Christianity into that specific major world religion category we set up at the start.
So, after defining our terms, touring the origins, exploring the why, and even looking at potential exceptions, I think it's time to circle back to that original claim and deliver the final verdict.
The verdict is pretty clear, isn't it? That statement, That Asia is the birthplace of all major world religions isn't just true, it might even be an understatement. Based on the scholarly definition, every single one of them has its roots deep in Asian soil. It truly is the spiritual starting point for the vast majority of humanity.
And that leaves us with one last thing to think about. In a world that so often feels divided by our beliefs, how does it change things to remember that these incredibly diverse faiths all spring from a common continental cradle? What does that mean for how we see each other and for how we see our shared human story?